Hello, friends, and welcome to the Collective Awakening podcast. Chris and Stephen here with you once again. Absolute pleasure to welcome back Dr. Gareth Thomas, who we spoke to before in a previous episode. It's great to have you with us, Gareth, once again.
Yeah, it's nice. Just before we started, we were on the chat, and I think we decided we should get on with it because some of the stuff we were getting into was good. Huh?
100%.
But it's nice to see you guys. You look well as well, which is good.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Surviving in a mad world, huh?
We have to.
We are, and I think that's a good place to start because I know you reached out to me earlier on in the year about doing a podcast, and I thought great, and then kind of everything went up in the air as soon as we stepped into the year of the horse for sure. And now we've managed to get around to it. Now I got in touch and I went, wow, I feel like we've jumped time. So what's your kind of thoughts and feelings on what's been occurring this year energetically? What we're sort of riding through in this stage?
Collectively, I think that people are being forced to move up in vibration. Personally, I think people are being, made to look at their own power, and old paradigms are starting to slip away. It's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah.
Most people I know in energy work and in any healing modality are finding it tough. They're finding that it's the light that or the energies that are coming in are quite profound, and it does two things. One, it forces you to move with that and let go of quite a lot, or fight against it. So it's the usual thing whenever you do something that involves light work or energy work. As a vibration comes in, it starts to sift up, and shift the vibrations which are lower in you, which are difficult to deal with. Things like fear, anger, hatred, old patterns that you've grown up with, all those things. And even if you take it deeper onto, ancestral patterns, national patterns, historic patterns. And my feeling is that we may be moving into a place where to me seems completely new for humanity. It's like a complete end of a cycle where you've got civilizations come and go, come and go, come and go. It's been building. The mind of humanity has been building and evolving, and I get a sense that we come into a much bigger cyclical end and start of something new, which seems pretty new, which is exciting, but it means that we have to let go of the old paradigm.
Yeah, exciting, but definitely not easy. It's like hard work, but it 100% pays off. To look at those things that might be uncomfortable within ourselves or things we see, looking at things in the true reality and its true nature. And it's funny, we were talking about just before we started, like you said, Gareth, about kind of our core teachings and knowing in the work we all do about different energies. And when we're working with energy, either really it's not just for healers, mediums, light workers, anyone in the world, being aware and having those core teachings, those groundings on light energy and energies that are otherwise lesser enlightened as well.
Yeah, I've noticed. So my doctor bit that you've got there, or what I put up there, is I'm a dental practitioner, which I started working in 87. I started to train, and that was really from a calling to help people. I've come from that type of family where it's probably a healing pattern that I was born into, and then I've moved into dentistry. But then, you know, um, maybe I think around 97, something like that, I got more into the healing side of things, and that opened up quite a lot for me. And so there's this progression of movement from one thing to another. But now I've been, in healing since '97. I've been made to really go back and look at everything that I've taken on board as a healer. And we were talking about our mentors and tutors and some of the gems that they come out with that really aren't. They're timeless, so they're
Yeah.
probably the same now as they were before and will going forward. And that's what I suppose you'd call ancient wisdom. It doesn't age. It's true to form. And I think that if you are involved in any form of energy work, it's very important to remain grounded and keep your energy field protected or strengthened and cleared at this point in time, and keep doing that regularly, because thought is illusory and it's very easy. I mean, I do it, we all do it. You see yourself go back into an old pattern, then you might experience it for a short period and you go, oh my god, I'm back in that old pattern, it's not working. And then you have to find ways of releasing it and moving on to something new. But I think what happens is people have a difficulty, what do I replace it with? Because nature doesn't like a vacuum. So if you shift something, you need to fill it with something, right? So I know in my teachings, when I teach and how I was taught, if you do energy work or healing, if you clear something from the energy field, you need to fill it with light after. So you don't allow a space that allows lower vibrational energy to enter.
It's something that we really strongly practice at the Purple Mountain, which we call spiritual hygiene. Just if you're doing any kind of vertical commas spiritual work, healing, mediumistic work, it's keep yourself spiritually hygienic, keep yourself, the end of the day, forget about the light and dark side, just clearing residual energy that the clients, and we're not speaking about that clients are dirty or bad, but sometimes people come with very heavy, dense energies, and you are holding that light, and that needs clearing. Sometimes that needs cleansing, and like you said, it's something that I try to use myself, which is for me the most effective way is the grounding side, grounding your energies. But spending a little bit of time after, when you've done a bit of work out in nature, me and Chris always go for a long walk after, just cleansing ourselves. We do smudging, music, just a lot of things, and meditation being a really useful one as well.
Yeah, you picked up on something that's really important there, saying that it's not the client's dirty energy or whatever. But I think what can happen on the flip side of that is that people can be told that their energy is bad or dirty, And I don't know about you, but my own experience of that, it's enough to send a person pretty insane if you tell them there's something in their energy field, or they've got something attached to them, or it's bad, or it's such a responsibility to work with people's energy, as
Yeah.
and it's so important to be positive always. And I think so what happens is people they misread energy. So let's say, I'm not saying things don't exist like that, but sometimes somebody might have a thought form around them that's maybe a depression type thought form, a block of some sort, and a person misreads it as something else, and then they glamorize it, and for the sake of their own ego they go, oh well, you've got this going on with you, and I can sort this out for you. And what they do is two things: they disempower the person, also themselves, and they create a cyclical pattern of thought that when that person leaves, that it puts them in a really dark place. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Oh, do you know?
It does. Yeah.
Sorry, that's 100% agree with this, Gareth, and it's something actually that I've been experienced. It might be going a little bit off topic or not. Is in when people talk about clearing energy in homes, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, because you hear of a lot, and I'm not judging anyone. We're all finding our own way. but he'll say, I'll come and I'll clear your house. You've got entities in your house. I'm going to clear it. I'm going to do this. And it's something that I've been sort of working with people that way, because I believe you can give people the tools to do that work themselves, to clear energy in that home, and to keep it fortified. And to me, your home is your castle, it's your sanctuary. So that's your home. And I find working that way with people, normally I do it through email or communication, you know, and that they feel so empowered after. And it a little bit touches on like what you said. It's so easy to walk in and go, oh, well, you've got all this, frighten somebody to death, probably. They'll lose even more a night's sleep after hearing that. Whereas give them the tools and the knowledge about the energy, where they can make the correction and fortify the home and take that into the future homes and the spaces they're going to use.
That's coming from a point of what I would say strength and maybe love rather than fear.
Yeah.
If you instill fear in people, then you might do all the work you want to in someone's home. They'll still have a fear. You'll anchor a fear that it's something that can attack you out there, right? And ultimately, okay, if you look at the energy planes, there's good and bad on them, right? But in terms of who has the power, really, it's the light has the power, really, right? And nothing really can go counter to that, because ultimately everything comes from that point and returns to it, you know. And there's energies that decide not to do that and live in lower realms until they come to a point where they go, this is pointless, I want to move into a different realm now, you know. But you can do a lot of damage. And I think some people misread things. You know, you go into a house and let's say you go into a house and there's been an argument in a room an hour before, and the energy's in there of the argument, or it's disrupted slightly, and you pick up on it and you go, oh, there's something really bad in here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a difference, you know. It's I don't want to go off two things too much, but I remember a client of mine was a priest, and it's interesting how some of the more conventional services say they don't believe in this stuff, but then they include someone to help. There was a house in London where there was murders constantly, right? The police were being called there constantly over a number of years, right? Whoever lived there was something bad that always happened, right? So they decided they got a medium in, right? And the medium was really good. They said, there's something, you know, initially, apart from all the other things that had happened there, there's something initially there that's not okay, right? They sorted that out. The energy completely changed. And they weren't being called there constantly to sort something out. So there are cases when that happens, but they, you know, they're lesser rather than more. It's usually just basic emotions, thoughts. But I think what happens is that it's very, very easy to want to feel special, you know. And I get it, I understand it. I think we all, when we start out, we go through a period of glamour. And, you know, I wow, look at this special ability I've got. And, you know, those energies that quite like to lead people astray, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that until you strengthen your energy, like you were saying, Steve, and ground and keep your energy clear, and just do it like you would, forgive me for saying this, like brushing your teeth, right? It's spiritual hygiene. Don't think about it, just do it. I mean, I do it every day, sometimes twice a day if I've been working energetically or more, you know. I think that's the secret, is to keep in the energy, keep flowing with it, and deal with things as they come up. And always come from a point of compassion with your clients, and don't scare them. And if you don't know, right, I've done this. If I get something and they say, oh, A, B, C, D, E, I say, look, I don't really know about this, but I've got a colleague who's more into this. I'm going to send you their way because they'll be of better service to you. Be prepared to say, I don't know. All right. And then if you're interested in that subject, learn more about it and get some good training in it. You know, but it's like anything, whether you're in the conventional world or whether you're in the spiritual world, good training is really important.
I think it's important to remember as well to the empowerment side. I find really useful because there is always that danger as a healer practitioner to fall into the rescue side, and we're not here to rescue clients. We're here to empower them to take self responsibility, and also remember, I always try to encourage clients to look within the inner voice, always look within. And that's why I think even as healers, that grounding, you talk about that internal wisdom, that ancient wisdom, is you always start within yourself before you start connecting. Learn about self, learn about the inner voice, learn about the I am power, trust the inner voice, take responsibility, always look within first, because talk about negative energies, we are mirrors as well, and what we don't heal we attract. And often Chris talks about it as well in the house clearance side, that when there is stuff, that uneasy stuff or dark stuff that does occur in a home, often it is something that is projected in one person or couple of people in the family home, and that can build over time, that can build like a ball of energy. And if we're not clearing that, that builds and builds, and then you've got those lower beings who will feed off that dense energy. So it's like a vicious circle, and to clear it take self-responsibility, step in your power. And I know that's not always easy, and sometimes, like you said, you kick people up the bum a little bit ultimately, but they have to do that work themselves. And I think sometimes, just my last point, which is something that I've really struggled with, Gareth, and I'll be interested to hear your point of view on this as a practitioner, is that sometimes I have to say there's nothing more I can do. You need to, you keep coming here, you keep facing these same lessons. There's nothing more I can do. You need to go out in the world and you need to learn these lessons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I teach, 2-year diploma in crystal energy healing and subtle energy work with sound and color, and it's I take people through 14 weekends over 2 years, and the thing that always comes up is, how do I help? How do I sort someone out? And I was taught like this: is you're not there to fix someone. What you are is a catalyst for change, for them to empower themselves. Because what happens is that if you step into that place of rescuer and fixer, it's very difficult to get out of that as a practitioner if you set yourself up like that. Because say you start with one person and you fix something, and you're not empowering them in a way to find the answer themselves. You set an energy up in your practice like that, and then you attract more people like that until you learn the lesson. They'll keep coming to you and they'll get more difficult. So that initially they'll be, oh, this is a small fix, right? And then they'll come, this is a bit more difficult. And until you learn the lesson that you're not meant to do that, where you turn around and say, look, I'm not here to sort things out for you. What I can do, and this is the way I would work, I can look at your subtle energy systems, see where there's something that needs to be shifted energetically, do that, and then hopefully things around you will fit into place. But it doesn't mean they'll just sort them out for you. You might have to have this difficult conversation with someone. You might have to change your direction in some way. You might have to read around the subject. But by doing that, then you empower someone truly. And I always think that if I get a client, they come to me once, and then they go off and they don't come back, great. If they keep coming to me constantly every week for a year, I'm not doing anything. What I'm doing is keeping that person tied to me, taking money from them, and it's not empowering them to go out into the world and find their path themselves, you know.
I completely agree with that. And I think this is where, in a way, healing can become a bit of a trap, where it's becoming a constant, almost like it's something that's constantly supporting us rather than empowering us. And I like the way you put that, Gareth. You know, I felt it was wise words there for both those who are healers and clients, because it's not always down to your clients as well. You know, if you're looking, like you're saying, and you're getting a certain type of client, you have to look within as well and say, well, you know, what's unfolding here? What is this teaching me? What am I possibly projecting into my practice? Which I feel are really important things to do, and questions to ask when you're practicing as a
Can
healer.
I can I just quickly mention as well, on the other side of the argument, and it'll be interesting to hear your point of view on this, Gareth, is where people will seek healers for help, and our job is to empower. Yes, compassion and kindness always at the core, but empowering people to empower themselves. But also, you've got on the client's perspective, which I found, that they will say, "Oh, my guides are going to take this away. My guides are going to sort this. My angels are going to sort this." So that disempowers people. And I keep saying, and this is something that me and Chris have done a podcast on, is that your guides will help, they will guide and support, but they're not going to interfere in your life. These are your lessons for you to face. But there is such a big toxic side of the spiritual movement, which is everything's love and light, and the guides are going to sort everything out. They're going to take everything away. And I would question, well, who you working with, who you're linking with here, if this is what your guides are doing.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. From my experience, you know, and I've taught people who've had that idea initially, and I can understand why, right? Most people who come into healing are holding trauma. They find that they're wanting to find a release or healing for their trauma, right? And that trauma stops them facing certain responsibilities, or it's too painful to face certain responsibilities. And then they find this connection to light, and it takes them away from the physical plane, the reality of the physical world. And we're born here, right? We're born into the microcosmic world of, you know, the four elements and the angelic, which I would say oversees everything from my perspective. And that world is down here. It's physical and it's energetic. When you start to look at guidance and angels, they are not routinely walking among us. I think you can get circumstances when an angel, you know, an angelic experience comes through a person, or a guidance comes through a person. I've experienced that myself, and I'm sure you have too, right? When something happens, you go, wow, that's that person speaking to me, and something else has come through them, right?
Yeah.
But this idea of handing a responsibility over to the light is not okay in my book. Now, I might be wrong, okay? And I'm sure people will look at this and think, I agree with that and I don't agree with it. But from my experience, it's you can't hand responsibility over. You have to take responsibility for yourself, right? And any guidance that says that they will take over responsibility for you, I would question. It's also like any guidance that tells you to do something negative, I would question. Guidance from either a guide which has lived on this plane before otherwise, or an angel, wouldn't tell you to do something negative, right? It's like whenever, you know, we do group healing or earth healing or planetary healing, you have to be responsible with where you're sending energy. So for example, some of the things that come up very commonly whenever I've held groups and we do planetary healing, there'll be some despot in the world, right, who's killing people. Now, there's loads of them around, you know, and they'll say, oh, let's send love to that person, right? And you say, okay, let's think about this. Why do you want to send love? Oh, so they'll become good, right? So the person who's a despot is killing people. They obviously have an issue with love because they've got so much, of the opposite in them and around them. Let's say you send them love and it starts to shift the pattern on a deeper level. They'll probably go more into the dark. But people would argue, well, that's ridiculous. We got to hand the responsibility over to the angelic. No, the angelic won't do anything for you unless you ask them to, and you need to be sure what you ask. And I think yeah, go on.
Go on. No. I was going to say, just interject there, and we were talking about this not long ago. As an individual sovereign being, I don't know what that person's karma, psychic debt, or lessons are. And again, it's not our job to, and we found this, oh, spirit, please take this cancer away. Please take this block away. Well, no, we can't do that. You don't know what that person's lessons contract that they have with their body, with the block, with the dark, with the shadow. You don't know. And you're there trying to step in and take that away. So what I tend to do now is just send healing to this ball of energy and a trust in the divine beings that they would disperse that energy where it's needed. Because you have to be so careful, but stepping in and putting your fingers in this person's pie and this person's energy. I think you're absolutely right there, Gareth.
Yeah, I think what you're touching on as well is soul contracts with people. You can't. My teacher, bless her, I miss her so much, right? And I mean, I just to plug. I'm going to plug a book actually. It's called "You Are Energy" by Henriette Mastdyke, right? And it's a great introduction to energy. It's grounded, sensible, and it goes through some things that most people experience, whether you're an energy worker or whether you're not. It's really useful. But I think that what she used to say was, don't take people's lessons away from them. If you start to take people's lessons away from them, you might be creating bad karma for yourself. And I think that it's a serious thing, karma, and it's not. People sometimes misunderstand it as like, oh, you're bad karma. You're like a bad person. No, it's just cause and effect. Yeah. If you set up energies that are counter to what universally that soul needs to learn, you are maybe interfering with their path. So you have to be very careful. I mean, I think that my responsibilities as a healer are far more deeper than they are as a dentist. It's a completely different level of responsibilities. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have to be responsible in any grounded work that you do in what I would call conventional terms. But when you move into energy work, I think the level of responsibility goes much deeper, and you have to take it seriously. And it's not a matter of taking someone's lessons away from them. It's like you were saying, it's like empowerment, and you don't know someone's soul path. The only soul path you should get to know is your own.
Yeah. I think you touched on both of you there, really important and essential subject there, and something we see, it really touches on the rescuing side, and I got given a very powerful visual that came to me years ago in the meditation, and I'll never forget it, because I've been through these moments of rescuing or trying to, it's almost, sometimes it feels like it's a big lesson or rite of passage in a lot of this work that you experience. And I was sat there in a meditation, and I got shown like a tar or syrupy substance, and my hand went into it, and as I pulled back, it's kind of all stuck to my hand. And it said, that's what you're doing every time you're going into or interfering, trying to rescue someone or trying to redirect their life. You are you are stepping right into that, and then some of that is going to stick to you as well. So be very careful. And I've never forgot that visual. It always comes to mind whenever
Well, I would call
I
that,
might lose track.
I would call that good guidance.
Yeah.
I would call that good guidance. That most good guidance forces you to look at things seriously.
Yeah.
It doesn't boost you up as something the best things in sliced bread, and it doesn't say how wonderful you are, how gifted you are. It doesn't inflate your ego. Usually what it does is it makes you reflect on egoically who you are, so that you can move into, a more empowered state for yourself and others. And that usually means not taking people's power away.
Yeah, a good friend of ours who's a medium called Jenny Moore, and she made a point when we were just having a chat, much like this one, but not recorded. And she said, if I ever finish a mediumship demonstration or reading, if one of my guides or who I'm connected with in spirit came to me and said, "Oh, you did a blinding job there, Jenny. Amazing tonight. Amazing." She said, I would seriously question it. Because like you said, it doesn't, it's just coming in, that energy is just coming in truth and wisdom, not to boost your ego. That's unnecessary. It's the work is done, it's completed. And I thought,
Yeah, but
she
that's
really made a good
it's
point.
so easy, isn't it? You can so easily step into what would, I was taught as something called guru syndrome.
Yeah.
If you're not grounded yourself and you're too open, and the person throws you that hook, it's very tempting from an egoic point of view to go, "Oh, and then you're in it, and that connection that you make, because we're connected to energy planes, those energies that like to lead people astray think, oh, there's an opportunity here." And I don't know about you, but you're very much like Lord of the Rings. The eye doesn't go asleep; it's constantly there. That sort of, those lower planes of frequency, they don't sleep, and they take any opportunity to sidetrack someone from their path of light. And it's like anything. I mean, let's say you go for a healing session or a session with a medium or psychic. Ideally, what should happen after that is that something comes up that you can practically deal with in the real world. You make a change and your life gets better, right? If you go to someone and your life gets worse, or the way forward becomes muddier or more difficult, so that you either become more dependent on someone else, or things happen around you that are become much more difficult, I would question that. And I mean, from a practitioner's point of view, they're giving examples. So let's say I'm going through a period where I'm going through my own developmental stuff, right? And excuse me, I've had to do this over the last 6 months. I've realized that because of the changes universally, I've had to, like you were saying, Steve, I find this last 12 months of been keep going inwards. Don't go too outwards, keep going inwards, center yourself, be in. And so I've had to really, slow down some of my practice and teaching for a little while to reconsolidate. Because I know that if I'm not in the right place, then I can't give everything that to my students or people I practice with, and then they don't get the best from me, and then they can't make the best decision. So let's say I'm going through an energy change in my energy field. It means that something is rising up in terms of thoughts, memories, and emotions I have to deal with. I don't want to be transferring that onto someone.
Absolutely. It's having I think the wisdom and the maturity to say, as a practitioner, I need time now to focus on me. And in the end of the day as well, the way I see things is that though we are channeling light and it's great to be at service to spirit and to the divine, whatever work we're doing, we are also here to learn, we're here to grow, we're part of the collective. There's also that spiritual arrogance that think that people are above the lessons and the collective work. No, I'm part of that collective work. I felt that I am a mirror. So what I see in the world, the politicians, in the collective, in the darkness, has also given me the opportunity to clear that darkness within me, because that's what I see in the outside world, my triggers. So, it's a great opportunity for all of us, regardless of what work we do, to face those fears, to face those memories, that heavy energy that does come up within us from our ancestry, within our DNA, or within the collective. So it's an amazing opportunity. But my last point there is also to reinforce the self-responsibility, is to always look at it, even for the dark, is what are they teaching me? So I'm aware of it. Sometimes I'll be going on my way and I thought, oh, I've not protected myself enough there, or I've become a little bit spiritually unhygienic for a couple of days. And so the dark's there not to be your enemies, but they're great teachers to us as well. So again, that helped me come out of the victim perspective. Oh, they're out to get me. No, thank you for showing me. I can thank you. I need to fortify myself here a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's if you're into energy work, that's definitely a milestone. That if you're serious about the work that you come up against, fear of the dark, fear of involuted energies, fear, those things. And I think that there are ways which you can work through that. I mean, for me, I found some books quite useful, which were there's one by Napoleon Hill, which is called Outwitting the Devil, and it's about him having a conversation with the devil and his tricks of how he misleads people. And when he wrote this book, it was not released for 30 years because he knew that he'd get flack for it. Now, I always say with any book, don't take it, literally always, but take from it what you want. And it's quite an interesting read. It's almost like he's having a medium type conversation with the Lord of Darkness or whatever, And and the other books that I found interesting were Scott Peck, who the Road Less Traveled. So he was a psychologist, and he was working in psychotherapy, I think. And initially, he didn't believe that something existed like evil or involuted energies. Let's say maybe you can call them that as well. But then he changed his mind when he started counseling or doing therapy with certain people, and he called them people of the light. So they seemed outwardly quite together, but behind it was something quite difficult. And the other book that he wrote was Glimpses of the Devil, right? And he went and spent some time with Father Malachi, who was, the film The Exorcist was based on.
Yeah.
He spent some time with him. He wanted to learn about it. I mean, that's one way of going into that. It's not something I would do. It's not my interest. But what I did need to do is read about it so that you confront the fear in relation to it, right? And I'm saying they're not easy books to read. And I would say if you do read them, make sure you're grounded and strengthen your energy field, because they are difficult books to read, right? But what it does do is it makes you confront that fear of the other side, And once you get past that fear, that energy, I'm not saying it doesn't try to affect you, but it's less effective. you know, and then you can see your own shadow issues more clearly. I think what happens with people a lot is that the shadows come up, they don't see them clearly, and that lack of clarity can mean that they can get sidetracked, especially when they're in the energy planes. Because this, you know, look, the world is full of people. Some of them are good, some of them are not. It's the same on the energy planes, you know, and it's like we were talking about responsibility. It's your responsibility to discern, you know, whether an influence is good or not. And I don't know about how you were taught, but I was taught if you link up and there's an energy that you don't recognize, if you ask it 3 times, it has to tell you which side it works for, right? So,
Yeah.
are you here in the light? Are you here in the light? Are you in the light? After 3, that's a very old, I think, mediumistic approach to things, where it has to tell you after 3 times who it works for. But these are things which are, you know, not passed on enough, I don't think.
I agree.
I completely agree. And I think that word really hit the nail on the head, is discernment. I think we're living in a time where discernment is absolutely essential. And what I'm seeing, and I'm really grateful because, you know, even just myself and Stephen were brought into this work by a couple that ran a home circle. And in that circle, we were able to gain so much core knowledge and wisdom before we even, you know, worked with anybody through readings or healings. That was for over 8 to 10 years, really. And what I find with those core teachings, one of which was personal responsibility, um, that in times that I might be find challenging, that I can almost fall back on them core teachings, and they really help me to not crumble in that situation. They help me to stay strong and either take responsibility for myself, to discern if there's something else that's making things hard or that's not aligning. And I really feel that's important, and important advice to anybody out there who is really feeling a calling to healing work, energy work, is put the time in with people, and allow yourself to receive those core teachings, because what they will do in the future is they will really help you in challenging times not to crumble and fall and walk away. That's what you'll see. You'll see people who will just walk away from everything.
You've touched on something that's really important, and it's something I've been looking at recently, especially with, I'd say, my mentor and teacher leaving this plane. And I started to realize that what she had left through her teaching is still alive, right, in her students, and she is likely to be having an influence on that from another place. So this goes into, what's the purpose of healing work, light work, mediumship, psychic work, if you're doing it in a way that's in line with the divine? So you're creating patterns, not just in yourself, but in others, that when you leave this plane, you can continue your work. It makes sense. It just makes complete sense that you're continuing your work, and those energies that are working for the divine plan to be manifest can work through people. But they can only do that if you have, like you were saying, if you have fundamental teachings that ground you in reality, that resonate with truth, you know.
Yeah. And I find on the other side of that, I've encountered really, you know, wise teachers at the time that I might have dismissed some of the teachings or thought, you know what, I just don't get that. And a couple of these people are talking about, really good friends that have now, you know, made the transition to the spirit world. I've gone, oh my God, they were so right. They were absolutely spot on. So sometimes, I don't know, maybe I wasn't ready to receive it or see it, but years down the line, oh, so helpful. And you know, I find myself sending thanks, going, yeah, definitely one to you. You got that one.
Yeah, and I don't know what your tutors, I'm assuming they're a bit like this as well. They most often than not told you something you didn't want to hear.
100%.
Yeah. So it was never like, oh yeah, that's great. It's like, no, this is the way I see it. And I mean, I remember I got so much love for her, actually, because she was, you know, instrumental in me finding my own power, which is always the sign of a great teacher, is them wanting you to be more empowered than they are, right? And so often I sit and you know, I'm grateful for that. And even memories of, especially when a teacher is really channeling something, that the words come out of the mouth, what they're saying, but you get a different impression that comes through as well. That's from a higher place, you know, and that hits your energy field. You know, there's stuff that happens in groups and tutors that it's working on a number of different levels. But it's being able to ground it all, always being able to ground the information. There's no point in having a lofty insight if you cannot ground it in reality and make a practical use of it.
Absolutely. And just going back to, I think, life experiences are key as well. And that, you know, I find that, and I laugh about it now, when I said, oh, yeah, you know, being a medium would be great and being a healer would be great. But with it comes massive responsibility and lots of inner work, getting you really uncomfortable. And life experiences is like initiations. You
Yeah.
know, a few years back, I wanted to deepen my work while maybe on a subconscious level, and that something really dark happened to me. I had a really dark experience, which I wholeheartedly appreciate now. But then with the reading that I had, I was a bit confused, and why did this happen? And the medium said it happened because your subconscious wanted to deepen your understanding about light and dark. And then with that realization, I was so grateful that now, for a long time, I thought, oh, it was them and us, the dark and us. We're against them. We're here to fight them. And to a degree, we're not here to fight anybody, because that continues the divide, that furthers the separation of our shadow. That was a project of my own shadow. I'm here to fight my shadow. And once I understood that, I made peace with that, integrated that part of my shadow, which I didn't love. I deepened my understanding about light and dark, and I see not the dark as, you know, my enemy, but rather my teachers, and that everything that does happen happens for a reason. But then on the other side, I also understand there is entities out there that want to cause a shit day for you, thinking, oh, piss off, you know. And I remember our
Yeah, but look,
guru, yeah.
you just said it. Piss off. It has to be as practical as that sometimes.
It
doesn't
does. It does.
You know, rather than engaging with it, that's sometimes the issue, isn't it? That those energies exist, and I think the mistake people make is that they engage with it to
Yeah.
try and get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you do that, it lowers your vibration down to it. Whereas the secret is what is it mirroring in me, the gremlin
Yeah.
in me? How do I work through that and move beyond it to a different vibration? You know, and
And
that's
sometimes it's so go on.
go
Sorry,
on. No,
Gareth.
you
Sorry.
go on. You
No, I was going to say sometimes we need to just be really honest with ourselves. The lady got us into this work in Nietzsche. She said, oh, I'm having a bit of a rubbish day. I'm calling them aliens. And you know what? I think what's really powerful in this message is don't take life so serious.
yeah.
One of our teachers, Albert, the Witch Channel, and he says, don't take life so serious, laugh things off.
Yeah.
Don't feed into that fear. And, you know, and I think with light and dark, you know, recognize that they're there, but don't feed into it. You know,
Yeah.
know it's there, but don't feed into the fear. Laugh it off. Joke about it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, laughter is really important, definitely.
Yeah,
You know, I've got the memories flooding back there. I was saying that, you know, my tutor would sit there having conversations which other people would find completely ludicrous, you know, and we just end up cracking up and laughing. You know, not about others, but also about ourselves, how ridiculous it, you know, life is sometimes, you know. and how.
But do you not think as well, Gareth? Do you not think, Gareth, as well, that sometimes people have this perception, oh, I have to be spiritual. I have to say, I send you my love. And sometimes you say, oh, just bloody piss off today. I'm not working with you. Be real.
Yeah, but
being spiritual is not having angel wings. Just be,
It's like, I'm so there. And then behind your back, they really have a go at you. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm thinking about some people like that. And I've had people who've come on courses. And when you broach subjects like this, they get really annoyed, right? And I'm sure there'll be people listening to this will agree with it. Some will go, oh, I don't know, and some will be really annoyed by it. They get triggered by it, right? This responsibility thing and the glamour side of things. And I'd say, look, why are you angry?
Yeah.
And it's usually because when you teach them something that means more sense and is more practical and more useful, they get annoyed that they've been taught something that's not right, and they've paid for it and they've spent time on it, and that happens a lot where people go, they pay money for teachings that people think are great, but what do they compare it to? And I'm not saying that all things like that are bad. Sometimes it's a stepping stone. Somebody starts somewhere, they maybe need to learn a lesson, and they progress. So, for example, if I think about my early days in energy work, the people that I came up against really challenged me, but in terms of how to use and misuse power. But it taught me how not to do that to my students. So I'm not, you like you said, Steve, it's like you don't know someone's path, so you have to honor people's path. But I think what happens with people if they do get annoyed by some of the things that we say is that take some time out and say, have you, the teachings that you've got, have you been shown how to ground yourself?
A lot of the time, Gareth, is what people are being taught as parrot knowledge. It's not from experience. So you're talking, Gareth, from I've lived experience.
Yeah. So you're talking people are taught theory, and I remember, this reminds me of a number of people have come to me, maybe done courses before, and they've been taught theory. And I said, where's the energy? And they said, what? Where's the energy? Can you feel the energy? Can you see it? Are you aware that when you're channeling energy and when you're not? Are you aware when you're linked to light or not? And lots of times people don't know. I mean, I remember when I used to do shows with my mentor. I mean, she was my friend really at the end, great friend. And we'd sit and we'd watch other, people doing healing. And he said, can you see any energy there? And sometimes you couldn't see it. So people are going through the motions and there's nothing really happening, and that's not to ridicule them. It's because they've not had any other, foundations like grounding. Like the first foundations of any energy work is grounding, strengthening your energy field, knowing your own energy. How do you link up to light? How do you recognize your guidance, right? How do you know that guidance is working for a higher purpose? And do you know when you read it, what information do you take in and what's useful? And I think they're very simple foundational sort of rules of energy work, in healing or reading.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that the word is the foundation. So, like we say, if we're, as you go through the experiences through your own journey and your journey, it could be a tremendous strength. And just something I wanted to share, because I was crying with laughter when you and Stephen were talking then, which is good. But in the circle that we were brought into, we were told a story from the lady and gentleman who run it, called Roy and Anita. And when they sort of began in the first few years, and they would feel bad sometimes when laughter broke out in the group. They'd think, oh, we're being disrespectful to the energies, to whoever's working with us. And they very quickly learned that when the laughter came in, even somebody saying something silly and everybody would break into fits of laughter, it's something that needed lifting, that was quite dense in the group. And I just want to mention at this point in the podcast that Gareth does a podcast with Dr. Jeremy Ayres as well worth a listen to. And in that, you mentioned something that it's really important that both you and Stephen touched on, is laughing sometimes in the face of fear.
Yeah.
Not allowing it to pull us down, not allowing it to provoke a reaction that's going to go into our nervous system and cause us problems, but actually to laugh it off, to smile in the face of it.
Yeah, I think I mean that's true. I mean, all I've experienced when I do the group work is the same thing. When you know, there's times as a tutor you sit and hold energy, and then laughter breaks out, and you think, oh, okay, it must be because there's an energy that's trying to get in, and this is helping to push it out. So the vibration of laughter. If you think about laughter, you know, it's not something you consciously do, is it? It just is a natural gift, really. It's like crying I always say crying is a gift, you know. It's one of those things that we've been given by nature that are really important basic functions. And I mean, laughter clears things very quickly, you know. And it's like you say, Steve, don't take things too seriously. You know, it's very easy to take things too seriously. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we would do it at times where, you know, you really care about what you're doing, and we'd end up having these, between myself and Steve, very serious conversations and trying to work out the ins and outs. And sometimes it is a matter, just like Stephen said, of, you know, we're not working with that energy. Do one out the door. We're not having it. We're not having it today. We've got things to get on with.
It happened actually to me, just telling a quick story, while I was on the most really strange time, which was during a massage. I was massaging somebody, and there was this energy that come in. I thought, this shouldn't be happening while I'm doing somebody's massage. Excuse me, you need to get out. But after talking to the client, there was a lot going on. It really influenced. There was a big cry. There was a big energetic release after, and the client felt so much better. But there was that energy that come in that made themselves aware. But then, with my experience, I think this is what comes down to that foundation. Once you're aware of it, they can't hide. You're like an antenna. You sense it, you feel it, and that's through practice. I remember, you know, any kind of like mediumship, the more you practice it, the better you become, the more aware you become of it. And I think that's what you talk about, Gareth, is and I've always had that opinion, which was all about energy. All this is you're becoming masters of energy. You're mastering energy, you're feeling, sensing energy. It's not theory, it's not all in the head. What are you feeling? Be curious, ask questions. Don't be frightened to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think also you've hit something that's important, which is when you start out, let's just say you start out as a medium and you get good training. Every time you open up and you've grounded and centered and linked, you're developing certain chakras, so that you're strengthening those chakras to connect in a way that's responsible. And when you do that, you in a way sort of prevent other energies from entering, because it's like, you know, let's say you strengthen your physical body and somebody wants to push you over. As you strengthen your physical body, they find it more difficult to push you over, right? It's the same in the energy planes. As if you focus in a certain way of doing something and you stick to it, and there will be times when you'll have to change it, right? When his consciousness shifts, personally and collectively. But it's like having a way of developing your energy system that's conducive to the way that you work, whether it's in working as a medium, psychic, or healing work. Because I mean, it reminds me of when I first started out teaching, I was very mediumistic and psychic, right? And I wonder whether that's something that I'd done previously in another life or something like that. But I mean, I'm still very sensitive to seeing and feeling energy, and have to be, and switch it on and off when I want to, right? But when I first started out, I used to get a lot of psychics and mediums who came and wanted to become healers, right? And I found it fascinating that as they went through that process of becoming healers, their chakra system energy was changing, and some of the mediumistic psychic abilities was moving out. So they had to change the way they sensed or worked. And it's not to say it's better or worse, it's just different. It's like if somebody came, I've known people who've come to me for healing, they do a year, and then they find they want to become a medium, right?
Yeah.
And then they have to develop the energy system in line with that, because if you think about it, if you develop your energy system in line with the way you practice, then you're assuring that you're connecting to good energy, right? But you have to have some guidance, whether you like it or not, and you have to have some fundamental grounded techniques that mean that you're doing it in a way that's good for you and other people.
It's Albert, one of our channelers, and Chris remembers this. Remember going to speak to we went to visit another circle, and there was a lot of people, and then said, "I want to do this, I want to do that," and truth cuts through everything. And Spirit said, "Well, first of all, learn about yourself first, and if you want to work with energy, healing's a good stepping stone. Get into healing, learn about the subtle energies, learn about healing self, and then learning about chakras." And so everything's a stepping stone. And I find this, and you can feel the repercussions of this now in the mediumistic movement, where it's 6 weeks the mediums, 12 weeks the mediums. And many years ago, me and Chris sat in circle 8 years before we even did anything out. We just sat, meditated, asked questions, and we worked on ourselves. It's, don't rush the process. It's worth being authentic, but it's very difficult to get that into people's minds, because people want to rush. People want to bypass, this is a big word, bypass all the other work. And I think it does come round. It does, in detriment to a person. People end up crumbling because they've got no foundations.
Yeah, my tutor, she started off in mediumship training, and she did a number of years in mediumship training with a person that she said didn't take any shit at all. She said, "Look, I know I seem a bit, difficult, but you'll appreciate this later." So she had a foundation, and then realized that she wanted to move into healing, but that foundation helped her in terms of recognizing energy, working with energy, and making some of the right decisions. But I think that what happens is that people, they want that quick fix. They want that, I can do this in a weekend. I can do this in a short course. And it's not a theory. It's not theoretical. You are your homework in a way. Your life is your homework.
Yeah, I like that one for sure.
Yeah,
I
that's
think it just
my
says
old teacher used to say that. When it was a course which was purely in development and not like a course that led to a qualification, so it was like a spiritual development course. She says, "You are your homework."
100%. And it's some things that, like you both said there, you can't grasp in the space of a weekend. And it's about, you have to experience them and go through the motions, and finding the way, not only through energy, the outer, but the inner as well. You're finding out who you really are. and what makes you tick, and maybe what you're carrying on, and also what wisdom you're carrying. But
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I sort of started out my training, I suppose, in '97. I got into Thai massage and acupressure. And then I started doing, I found I couldn't do it anymore. I was becoming more sensitive. I started meditating, got into crystals. And so I became more aware of subtle energy. So, massaging somebody was heavy. I found it really heavy. And so I moved more into the subtle work. And I think that when I started out then, courses were more longer. They were longer, and people were more into, really sort of going into that movement of complementary healthcare or spiritual, work. And it was a serious movement,
yeah,
it was a serious movement that had some really great teachers in it. And I think what happened, unfortunately, is that over a period of the last, say, 15 years, things have been watered down,
I agree.
and people go and get some knowledge, and then they think that they've got some knowledge, they pass it on to someone else when they haven't really grasped the fundamentals of it, haven't gone into deeply enough, and then that gets watered down, and somebody thinks they can teach it again, so this teaching line gets diluted.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think when it's like it's okay to have certain thoughts when within yourself and you're finding your like pathway, but once you start sharing things or passing them on as teachings, that's a huge responsibility that you're taking there. So
It
know
is,
what
but
you're
you
talking
got
about. Yeah.
yeah,
And
it is,
and just it's like what you mentioned earlier, Gareth, and I found this really important when you said it. It's all right to say I don't know as well. I've learned that sometimes when somebody asks me something, sooner than grasping and giving a theory that I really haven't experienced, just say, I don't know, but maybe I know someone who does.
yeah. That was another. Um, I think my tutor must be around a little bit today because I mention it a lot. But she used to say this thing: if you asked her a question and she didn't know, she'd just look at you and say, "Why didn't you reflect on it?" You know. And
I
I
found this.
and then
Go on.
after a while, I just said, "That's your technique of saying you don't know, and you need to go and look yourself." But it's true. Rather than saying, "Oh, make a story up about something," you can come at it with your own experience, but you don't really know. None of us really, when you say no, the only thing you can, you get to really know is if you really connect to a high energy and it has no words, you know,
Yeah.
it just doesn't have what you can't really describe it in this realm. And that happens occasionally. I'm sure you get those moments when you go, wow, that was just divine, right?
Yes.
And that to me is like a knowing place, but not in the sense of the intellectual. But that's what happens is things get intellectualized, and then people learn it like an intellectual process and don't go through they're not aware of energy.
Yeah,
I
and it
find this
falls
as well. Sorry.
into
So,
it.
Chris,
it
Chris,
sorry.
sorry. No, no. No.
Just go for it.
I'm being polite. Go on, Chris.
I was just gonna say we need
Oh,
a button or
sure.
something, don't we? We the only thing I was going to say there is that sometimes I find that's where people fall into falling back on logic, and this work isn't always logical.
No.
It doesn't work that way. To me, that's falling back too much way and too much on the mind side. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I mean,
Stephen.
now we're moving into a place of intuition, you know,
Yeah,
and how do you know your intuition is is right or clear? Because everything is always tainted by your vehicle you are, right? So when somebody, speaking from a point of view of healing, when somebody channels energy, they might think that they're not having some effect on the person with their own stuff, but some of your own stuff is bound to go onto that person. You can't avoid it. So whatever you channel, you'll get an aspect of light or vibration that's higher than some of your own stuff. But hopefully it's, you know, if you ground and you strengthen your energy and you're clear as channels you can be, it's not detrimental. It's in harmony with what the person's energy is like. So you'll always have some energies of yours go to someone and you take on some of theirs. And you know, it's like that thing of if you do that, we talked about gremlins before we started, didn't we? And it's like, let's say somebody is having a go at you and projecting a lot of anger at you, and you're feeling it, right? Lots of times people, you know, can react in a way of, that person's attacking me, you know, I'm under attack, I've got. But then the grown-up version is, what is it within me that allows that energy to come in? And what is it trying to teach me? So is my energy field reflecting what I don't need from that person, but allowing in a little bit of what I need to know so that I can work through it? Then I'm not affected by that anymore. It's like you're saying, Steve, it's that mirror. Everything is always mirroring back to us, you know?
I find as well, talking about that, while we talk about the regulation of nervous system, having, when you've done that level, and I'm not coming from an egotistical perspective, but when you have that level of awareness, that level of wisdom, you find that your emotions are better regulated. So instead of reacting or being defensive and blaming and playing the victim, you can come from a real inner power, the I am sort of power, the regulation of the emotional body, which is what I think a lot of our work is about, is regulating our nervous system and having the maturity, the wisdom, instead of looking outside of ourselves, always looking from within. And sometimes the closest of people that are around us are our greatest triggers and our greatest teachers, Chris and me being one of them. always learning from one another.
I hope our listeners felt that at that moment, that vibe.
I always look at, when I get a group of students and take them through 2 years, it's also, what have they taught me over 2 years about myself? Because I can teach and they have to go through their own journey through it, but that group of people usually comes together to teach me something too, and we teach each other. So it's like that thing, if you get a group of people, you might get one person who feels like they're the, you know, the special person in the group, right? And the, you know, they might have a special part to play like everyone else, but it's like everyone in the group, from tutor to student, holds a piece of the whole picture for that group. And it's how do people blend harmoniously so that, one, they get the development they need individually, but why has the group come together to work together? Because you know as well as I do, each group is different and they'll be working through different things, and then that mirrors out what impact is that having on the whole of humanity. You know, and it's interesting because that's where we're moving with the age of Aquarius, is group work.
Yes,
we are moving into group work.
Yeah, and I think certainly something that I feel is very important at this moment is community as well. That, you know, having these conversations, getting together, and maybe laughing things off, and realizing that I really feel that, and I've seen it, when you get a group of people in the room, most people feel a similar way and want similar things in the world and their life. Once you strip everything back and people start sharing openly.
Yeah, I mean, I always love that moment when you get a group of people coming into the work, whatever it may be, and they start to recognize each other. It's like, you know, there's a spiritual recognition of people, and they, you know, they feel comfortable. It's like family, and it's like moving into, you know, an extended family. It's not to say that people don't have the difficulties with each other. That's normal, you know, vibrationally, but you get that familiarity. And most people, I don't know about you, but lots of people come in, and within the first weekend they feel relieved that they can talk more openly about what they feel
Yeah.
and what they've been experiencing in life. And I wonder whether there's a lot more people waking up like that energetically. I mean, I've noticed definitely in my conventional work, people around me and people who I see are definitely more open to something more spiritual. And my feeling is that that's the way things need to go, in a spiritual direction. It's what's missing,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think there's just a lot of people, what I'm seeing, because sometimes I'll advise people to, go to a group that's near them, or, even if it's, for example, a mediumship demonstration, I said, look, it might not be about seeing the medium on the night, it might be who you meet on the night, having
Yeah.
conversations with people that aren't going to dismiss that crazy dream you've been having, or this, experience. They're actually going to resonate with it, and you can have them nourishing conversations, which I feel is really important to have that community for that. But just something I wanted to touch on, I know, is uh, transmuting energy. We
Yeah.
talked a lot in this about healing and about different energies, but sometimes when we're doing that work, actually the letting go, me and Stephen Stephen talked about quite often after a day, we'll go for a walk on the beach, we're almost shrugging off any energies that don't belong on that day, cleansing ourselves in a way. And how important do you feel that is in the world now? Because there is so much that it's so easy to walk out that door and absorb everything in,
Mm.
and actually being able to, let things go and not carry what's really not going to serve you at all in any way.
Yeah, I wonder whether he could approach this from, in different levels in terms of physical. It's like you say, exercise, going out in nature. Um, let's say what is transforming energy. Um, so energy can transform in different ways. It can either go up vibrationally or it can go down vibrationally. So you can transform your energy upwards or downwards, depending on what you experience or what you expose yourself to or how you work. I think that when you in any form of development, you'll swing from positive or light to dark. You'll do light work, and something will come up that will shift you back into you know the the shadow side of yourself, and it's recognizing the flow from one to the other. But if you're talking about trying to transform energy upwards, physical things on a physical level, exercise, eating well, looking after your body, getting enough rest, reducing, sort of uh, things that stress your physical body in, electromagnetic stuff. Then you can look at it emotionally. How do you transform emotions? We will talk about laughter. I probably would link both emotions and thoughts together because they're quite interlinked. Personally, what I tend to do is make sure that I'm, meditating daily, and look at what's happening energetically on the emotional and mental level, because that's usually where most things catch us out.
Yeah.
And we're all striving for the spiritual, the spiritual, the spiritual. But I mean, it's similar when I teach. I usually say to people, look, most of the things that you will help people with in understanding is on an emotional or mental level. That's usually where people get stuck on this plane. And those, let's say there's a block emotionally or mentally, and there's a spiritual energy. The soul wants the vehicle to change direction. That energy can't flow in unless you work on those fundamental basic levels. So on those levels, I'd say meditation is good, being around positive people, affirmations. Um, the other thing is that, I mean, backflower remedies are very good. for transforming energy. If you're clearing things away, I'd say crab apple is very good. If you're going through change and you don't want influences from outside and you're trying to shift, walnut is good. If you're going through a change and you can't switch your mind off, white chestnut is good. In terms of moving into new patterns and not going back into old patterns, so learning from your mistakes, there's cherry plum is good, and I think making decisions from one thing to another, scleranthus. So people can go into the back flower remedies, and chestnut bud is the one for, you know, not learning from your mistakes. Cherry plum is letting go. So there's tools out there. Crystals as well. I mean, I tend to work with crystals. Good crystal for transmuting energies. If you're seriously into energy, things like smoky quartz is very good. I'm not saying it's not a light-hearted one. It can make you look at things in a deeper way. Things that are very clear and are like a more gentle thing is snowy quartz. But it depends on the individual, you know. It's like this thing that, you know, drives me a bit mad when people categorize crystals and they say, oh, this does this does that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It depends on the individual. So
yes,
transforming energy is what is going on with the individual. And then spiritually, make sure that you connect to the right energies and look at, you know, I mean, if you're unsure, I always say a safe bet is really angelic. You know, if you really want clarity with something, really ground, link up. And sometimes people aren't aware that they can't link, you see. I don't know about you, but I know I've experienced some colleagues of mine, because of all the changes that are going on, they find it difficult to link up sometimes. So it's knowing when you're linked and asking. I mean, the angelic, like we talk about responsibility, it doesn't do something for you unless you ask. That's the responsibility side of things, you know. But there's a number of different things that you can do to transform energy. Write in journals. So for example, say something comes up that you're angry with another person who's harmed you. There's a wound there. You could confront them face to face. The other way you can do it is you write a letter to them, not send it. Allow the emotions to come up, burn it, so you get rid of that side of things. Keep writing it until it has no power of you anymore. You know, and being present, because it's very easy to get caught in old traumas and old memories.
Yeah,
you know,
I completely.
Forgiveness being powerful, forgiveness being very good as well.
Yeah. People misunderstand forgiveness. They think it's like, oh, I forgive you, I'm going to allow you to do the same thing. It's not.
Yeah.
It's allowing you to move away from that into a different vibration. It doesn't say that what the person did is right, and it doesn't mean that you can go back into that relationship in the same way. It's freeing you up to move on. You know?
Yeah, I suppose it's like, closing those chapters and coming to peace with things and not letting it sort of come into the what's ahead, really,
Yeah,
not dragging.
It's also
things in.
recognizing your own part in it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I run a workshop on wounding because it's something I'm really interested in. And one of the parts of that program or workshop is recognizing that in a scenario of wounding, you've got the wounded, the person who's wounding, and I think this is a very simple counseling thing, and then you've got the rescuer, you know. But there's also another person, which I think should be included, is the observer, right? So if you look at that scenario from a more expanded view, you've probably been all of those people in different lifetimes. But we get caught up in the individual identities of each one. Oh, I'm wounded. I'm the victim. Oh, I've wounded somebody else. I'm the perpetrator. oh, I'm the saver, or I've observed it, and all those identities get locked in, and then you're having to deal with the machinations of all it, rather than saying, well, I've probably, I've been a victim, but I've probably been a perpetrator as well. How do I heal this on a deeper level and move beyond the pattern? It doesn't mean that your wounds go away. It just means that you come at it from a different understanding, and that you can be freer of it to a certain degree. But that's a very difficult place to be. Also, is you can forgive someone for wounding you, but the more difficult thing is to see where you've wounded someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Because we don't want to look at that we could possibly be that. Because most people who get wounded or traumatized, they end up wounding someone else.
Yeah.
It just resonates,
Yeah. So, Gareth, I really enjoyed this chat today. Thank you for sharing your time.
Yeah, it's been good catching up, huh?
Yeah, and I feel like this is something that I know me and Stephen feel strongly about, that these should be like conversations, like real talk that should be happening. And I feel it's come from a really grounded place today. We've all talked about mentors and our foundations, which is really important.
Because the mentors, they're your mentors in the energy world. Are they?
No, what the lady is, but the gentleman's still on the earth.
Right. So they need people to work with.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, that if you get this pattern that builds in humanity that is grounded, normalized, and sensible, I always say that you should be able to explain what you do to a completely conventional person who works in the city, right?
Agreed.
In a way that they can understand it. They might not resonate with it, but they might go, well, okay, that sounds interesting,
Yeah, I 100% agree. And just to mention again that Gareth has got his own podcast with Jeremy Ez called the Doctors No More podcast. And that's very real talk as well, very down to earth, as well as, some really good wisdom being shared on that as well. So I strongly encourage everybody to check that out. And thank you for supporting this podcast. Please click and subscribe, continue to support it, and we'll continue having these conversations. But for this episode, thank you so much, Gareth. It's been great to catch up, and it's given me some good insights to think about today as well, to ponder on.
Well,
sure.
You know what? It's refreshing. It's nice to meet, like-minded individuals in the energy world, because I'm sure you'll agree it's not as easy as it could be,
Few and far between at the moment.
So it's important to have these conversations, as you say.
100%.
And then they become more normal. They're normalized, and then people realize that. And I don't know about you. I mean, I because I've been taught in a way that's serious, it never becomes boring.
Yeah. I think it's just, for me, the word that keeps coming back to me lately is curious, remaining curious.
Yeah,
it is so important. That curiosity, I think, comes from your passion, what you want to know. There's a guy called Boris Walter, and I think he's based in Australia, and he does some good stuff. But he said something like, it's not about knowing everything, it's just knowing there is always more to know. Yeah. And I really like that.
Oh, if anyone wants to reach me, my energy stuff is on www.energymedicine.international. It's going to be updated, the site, so people get through there from a contact form, or info@energymedicineinternational.com if they want to, if they're interested in training. I'm not going to take a course on at the moment. I know there's one in maybe early next year or something like that. But if they're interested in things like that or having questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Amazing.
Maybe we should meet again at some point. It's good.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
Maybe we should. I'll come visit at some point or wherever.
Yeah, you'd be most welcome. 100%. We could do it in person. And it's funny, as we were talking earlier, I thought, wow, why have we left this so long? So it has been.
I know why, because we've been doing other inner work and changing. you know.
So it's
It
coming back
happens that
to
way.
coming back to things in a different way. But the Gareth's links there that he mentioned, we will post anywhere where you're listening or watching this podcast. So thank you so much, everybody who's joined us today or listened to this podcast.
Oh,
Uh,
sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
The podcast with Jeremy is Doctors No More podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll post that as well before. Yeah, maybe we could come together at one stage. We'll do one, all four of us.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking to him later, so I'll have a chat to him about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Let's
they're
make
just
it
fun.
happen.
I mean, I it's nice to have, like we were saying, laughter is so important.
Oh, it really is, and it, like that's been mentioned in this podcast. There are very serious parts to this work, of course there are, but we can't take things too serious as well. It's good to laugh, be light-hearted, joke, even laugh at ourselves and our little follies in life as well. You know, just laugh it off. Don't be too heavy on yourself.
Yeah, don't take life too seriously because you're never going to get out of it alive.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect footnote just to complete this podcast. So thanks everybody for listening. Until we speak again. Bye.
Bye.